The Milgram shock experiment.
Hold on, pause. Now, take note. Most of our world-leading scientists know fully well the result of the Stanley Milgram shock experiment, and so too do our governments and world leaders. And what is it that all teachers and headmasters and so on have been saying when questioned about what they are doing to the children when they know that it is wrong? They retort that this is what our government has ordered or told them to do. So the question is,
Would you commit murder if an authority figure told you to? Think about that for a moment. But this is essentially what Stanley Milgram set out to investigate in a series of experiments in 1963. He was interested in the apparent epidemic of obedience that had facilitated the genocide of millions of people by Nazi Germany. The defense of many of those tried in the following years was that they had only been following orders. Milgram wanted to establish whether or not that this was a possibility. He then devised an experiment in which the volunteers were paired with another individual and given the role of either teacher or learner. The learner was actually always a member of Milgram's team, and the teacher was the volunteer. The teacher would then be put in a room with an electric shock generator, which was marked with degrees of danger as the volts increased from a slight shock at 15 all the way up to 450, which was marked as XXX. Basically, the teacher is instructed to give an electric shock every time the learner answers one of their questions incorrectly. The learner is deliberately answering the questions wrong, though, as the test is actually to see whether or not the teacher will administer dangerous shocks because they've been told to do so by an authority figure. The test then concluded that people are more likely to be obedient towards someone in authority. 65% of the teachers continued to the highest voltage shocks, and all of them went as high as setting the marked 300 volts. That's truly shocking.
is it shocking indeed, or is it expected? Now, I'd like you to take a look at the next experiment and to whom this experiment was conducted on. But please note, while listening, they do not tell you who it is, but they do show you. And while showing you, they indicate, but they do not explain fully, so that everybody is fully well versed on whom this was conducted upon. And while watching it, consider today whom was targeted first.
The Guatemala Syphilis Experiment. So, American GIs had been oscillating their unmentionables all over the world during World War II, and a rather lot of them had picked up an unpleasant after effect as a result. American medical research needed to find some kind of reliable way to prevent the contraction of syphilis amongst the soldiers who were so eager to make friends while they were at work. In the time-honored tradition of exploiting the vulnerable, these researchers set about an experiment that should go down in history as one of the most shameful of all, except that there really are so many for that particular list now, aren't there? So they trucked off to Guatemala and began a euphemistically titled research project, which unethically infected more than 5,500 people with syphilis, gonorrhea, and other STIs so that they could be guinea pigs for the potential prophylactic effects of penicillin on sexually transmitted diseases. Now, we don't have time to go into the harrowing details of the experiment, but just suffice to say that it was this disgusting example of colonial exploitation that deliberately made hundreds of people sick so that United States soldiers could poke their parts wherever they wanted to.
Do you see what I see? Okay, last. Now, take a look at this and listen. Does anything here sound familiar?
Unit 731. During the 1930s and 40s, the Imperial Japanese Army conducted horrific secret experiments on Chinese prisoners in the now notorious Unit 731 chemical and biological weapons trials. Horrific trials would be carried out on the prisoners. The things done in the name of science were essentially just brutal torture, which included vivisection of living human beings without the use of anesthetic, the removal of organs and limbs, and deliberate infection with deadly diseases like cholera and typhus. Utterly horrific and deeply disturbing. But as it turns out, such war crimes can be excused by the United States government if they produce some sort of information that they might find valuable. At the end of the Second World War, the United States government secretly granted immunity to all the unit officials who had been involved in the horrors, and many of these people then went on with successful careers in business, medicine, and academia, and no one was the wiser to their past butchery and torture. Science has done some extraordinary things, but sometimes things are done in the name of science that are truly unconscionable. Where should we draw the line in the pursuit of progress?
If you'd like to see the full video, please visit The Scary Cherry and check 15 science experiments that went horribly wrong. Thank you for watching.